Hey guys, what's going on? Captain here. Today I'm going to be talking about why you shouldn't join a faction on ECPE. I know some of you guys are going to be saying, Captain, what the hell? That's literally the point of the game. And I know it's the point of the game. I don't want you guys, to not join a faction. It's a specific type of faction I'm going to be talking about. And you might be like, whoa, that's a little weird. What type of faction are we talking about here? And typically, I think they're actually called second factions. I'm going to call them sub-factions or mini-factions because that just seems more fitting to me because that's what they actually are. When you have a bigger faction ask you if you want to join and you're not really a reputable player, or they ask you if you want to join their second faction and you're not a reputable player or really a big one, but you know how to play the game and have a grasp, you're probably joining a second faction and not joining the main one because it's like huge factions that are like the top three, and the top three usually have second factions, and they typically say it's because their main faction's full, but they'll give you a chance in their second one, or they have it for rewards, which is usually the case. They usually have these second factions to earn rewards, and if you don't know, you can get rewards at the end of the season, a faction season. You can get like probably over $300 in rewards for being F top 1 and this and that. So these big factions will make a mini faction or a second faction or a sub faction, whatever name you want to use, so they can also boost this faction up to, like second place when they're first place. That's usually the idea. It doesn't really work out always that way. They come close. Sometimes even they'll have their second one in third place and they'll be first, but it usually doesn't work out the best. But anyways, that's not the point. You should be very careful and not join one of these mini factions, and the point is because, or the reason for this is because they will use you and exploit you anytime they can. I'm going to explain how. So I had the two leaders of my faction. It wasn't the actual leader, they were the officers leading it, and the reason they were in charge was because probably the owner was in the main faction and it was like his alt account or his friend's account, and basically they had these two officers leading these sub factions, and basically they're officers, and basically they would have us make G sets for the main faction, and obviously I wouldn't make G sets because I don't want to make G sets for someone and not use it. But they would have us make G sets for the main faction, or they would force other players to, and they would basically use us for labor. And the reason they did this is because they were promised rewards at the end of the season. So basically, these guys are enslaved, and what they're doing is getting more people to work for them in the hopes that they'll actually be in a faction, but instead they're just utilized for grinding, and they're not really doing anything else. You don't really PvP, you do nothing else. They just would have the main faction take them to like the outpost or to go cap, and they would get faction points. That's how they get faction points. And then after that, they really wouldn't help out that faction anymore. They would just keep asking them for money or for things to help them out, like kits, and we would basically just hand it over. They would ask us for kits. They'd be like, hey, give up your ED, or they'd be like, hey, give up all your custom enchants. We need them for the main faction. And these guys were promised rewards at the end of the season, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think they got them. And it's basically a fucking pyramid scheme. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically the guys at the top recruit lower people for them, and the guys keep recruiting people under them and under them and under them, and it keeps going on, and it keeps making the guys at the top more wealthy. And basically, the farther it goes down, more people get wealthy. But basically, in the end, everyone is left with nothing except the people at the top. So basically, all the people that are in the main faction are making all the money while we have all these slaves working, and we don't actually get any of the fruits of our labor. So that's probably why you should stay away from a mini faction or a second faction. They're usually used for the main faction's bidding, and they're not really recognized, I feel like, as I don't want to say as players because that sounds like slavery, but they're really not recognized by the main faction as other faction members. They're just kind of looked at as a tool to get what they need, which is kind of unfortunate. For you, it sounds like a sweet deal for the main faction, but for you, it's kind of like you're getting the shit end of the stick. So that's why you guys should probably stay away from these factions. I haven't had that many encounters with them, just once or twice, and of course I've been exploited, for my ED kits or for my custom enchants, and I don't want you guys to make the same mistake as me. I don't know how prominent these factions are anymore because it's a little bit more difficult to run a faction, I think, and a little bit more expensive, but I mean, people will do anything for them money in ECP, so you guys got to be careful. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, see you guys. Peace.